Hi friends, I welcome you all here at TNV Academy, Leadership of ISO 22000-2018. This clause 5 leadership talks about the role of top management, which is the group of people who direct and control an organization at the highest level. The top management need to ensure that the food safety management system and its requirements are integrated into the organization's processes and the policy and objectives are aligned with the strategic direction of the organization. Top management also needs to make sure that the food safety management policy is made available, communicated, maintained, and understood by all parties. The clause 5, leadership, is further divided into three sub-clauses, which are 5.1, leadership and commitment, 5.2, policy, 5.3, organizational roles, responsibilities, and authorities. Let me start with sub-clause 5.1, leadership and commitment. The subclause 5.1 of ISO 22000-2018 specifies that the top management is required to demonstrate leadership and commitment with respect to the FSMS by ensuring that the food safety policy and the objectives of the FSMS are established and are compatible with the strategic direction of the organization. As per this subclause, top management must establish leadership and commitment with respect to the food safety management system by ensuring the integration of the FSMS requirements into the organization's business processes. Top management must ensure that the resources needed for the FSMS are available, meeting the requirements of the standard. This subclause 5.1 says that top management is required to demonstrate leadership and commitment by communicating the importance of effective food safety management and confirming to the FSMS requirements, applicable statutory and regulatory requirements, and mutually agreed customer requirements related to food safety. According to subclause 5.1 of ISO 22000-2018, the top management must ensure that the FSMS is evaluated and maintained to achieve its intended results. This clause 5.1 states that the top management is required to show the leadership and commitment by directing and supporting persons to contribute to the effectiveness of the FSMS and by promoting continual improvement. Further, this subclause specifies that the top management is required to demonstrate leadership and commitment with respect to the FSMS by supporting other relevant management roles to demonstrate their leadership as it applies to their areas of responsibility. Now, coming to subclause 5.2, policy of ISO 22000-2018. It has further two subclauses. Subclause 5.2.1, establishing the food safety policy, and subclause 5.2.2, communicating the food safety policy. Let me begin with subclause 5.2.1, establishing the food safety policy. According to the subclause 5.2.1, top management is required to establish, implement, and maintain a food safety policy that is appropriate to the purpose and context of the organization. As per this subclause, 5.2.1 standard states that food safety policy must provide a framework for setting and reviewing the objectives of the FSMS. Subclause specifies that food safety policy is required to include a commitment to satisfy applicable food safety requirements, including statutory and regulatory requirements and mutually agreed customer requirements related to food safety. The subclause 5.2.1 of ISO 22000-2018 says that food safety policy must address internal and external communication and is required to include a commitment to continuous improvement of the FSMS. This subclause also states top management is required to establish, implement, and maintain a food safety policy that addresses the need to ensure competencies related to food safety. Now, Coming to subclause 5.2.2, communicating the food safety policy. The subclause 5.2.2 of ISO 22000 states that the food safety policy is required to be available and maintained as documented information. The policy must be communicated, understood, and applied at all levels within the organization. As per this subclause, food safety policy is required to be available to relevant interested parties as appropriate to meet the requirements of the standard. Friends, let's start with the subclause 5.3 now. Organizational roles, responsibilities, and authorities. The subclause 5.3.1 of ISO 22000 states that top management is required to ensure that the responsibilities and authorities for relevant roles are assigned, communicated, and understood within the organization. Clause specifies that top management is required to assign the responsibility and authority for ensuring that the FSMS conforms to the requirements of this document and for reporting on the performance of the FSMS to the top management. As per this subclause 5.3.1, the top management is required to appoint the food safety team and the food safety team leader and designated persons with defined responsibilities and authority to initiate and document actions. Now coming to the subclause 5.3.2. The clause 5.3.2 of ISO 22000 specifies that the food safety team leader must be responsible for ensuring the food safety management system. It is established, implemented, maintained, and updated. As per this subclause, food safety team leader must be responsible for managing and organizing the work of the food safety team. This is the responsibility of food safety team leader to ensure that relevant training and competencies for the food safety team is done. Subclause 5.3.2 states that food safety team leader is accountable for reporting to top management on the effectiveness and suitability of the food safety management system. Let us talk about the subclause 5.3.3 now. According to this subclause 5.3.3, all persons must have the responsibility to report problems with regards to the FSMS to identified persons. Friends, it was about the clause 5 leadership of the standard ISO 22000-2018. For more information about our institute and other training programs, you can contact us through email or phone. I sincerely thank you all for your interest and attention.